Welcome to Roger That, a podcast presented by HVAF of Indiana. I'm your host, Lauren Carpenter, and join me as we discuss how HVAF is ending veteran homelessness and how you can join us in our mission. We'll be having conversations with community partners, staff members, and even some of the veterans we serve. We hope sharing more of our story with supporters like you can shine a light and give a voice to this vulnerable population, because no hero should ever be homeless. All right, on today's episode of Roger That, you will be hearing a familiar voice if you've been listening this season. A few episodes ago, I shared about our legislative efforts to try to make it illegal for landlords to deny veterans using vouchers for their housing. And on that episode, I spoke with State Representative Renee Pack. Renee represents Indiana House District 92 and was elected to the Indiana House of Representatives in 2020. She serves on many committees through the House of Representatives, including Veterans Affairs. Renee also served in the United States Army from 1986 to 1991. And when I spoke with her on House Bill 1087, she shared a lot of her life story with me. And when I heard from her, I knew I needed to share her story with you guys. Renee has faced trials and tribulations all her life and has persevered through it all. Her story is very inspiring, and I can't wait for you to hear from her. So let's get into it. Here is my conversation with State Representative Renee Pack. Renee, one thing that I think is really cool is that you also are a veteran yourself. So would you just be able to go into like your military experience, what branch of the Army, what you did, all of that?
Sure. I was in the Army. I was in regular Army, which means I was full-time. I was National Guard or Reserve. I went in actually pretty late. I had already had one child and kind of at a point in my life where I didn't feel like I had the direction that I needed. And since my father was military, my uncles, I come from a very military family, I thought this is what I'm going to try to do and try to provide a good living for myself and also for my one daughter that I had at the time. So I ended up going to MEPS, which is the Military Entrance Office, and signed up like on a Thursday, and I was shipped out on Monday. So I really didn't have a whole lot of time in between to think about it. I said, this is what I'm going to do. Got everything straight at home with my mother and my daughter. And then by Monday, I was on my way to Fort Dix, New Jersey for basic training. And that was January in the middle of winter in New Jersey. So that's another chapter.
Yeah. Wow. So yeah, that was very fast to go from you just go to the office and then you were all in.
Right. And the thing about that, too, is I returned to Fort Dix, New Jersey for my basic training. I had spent 8 years of my life growing up as a veteran daughter, and we were stationed there 2 times. So I was very familiar with the post, and it was kind of nostalgic going back, but in a different role.
Mm-hmm. How long did you serve?
5.5 years. I ETS'd on May 31st, 1991, and returned to Indianapolis.
How would you say your military experience has shaped who you are today?
It has shaped me tremendously. I don't think I'd be here. I don't think I'd be doing the work that I do. There's nothing in my life that I think would be the same if it had not been for my military experience. And it's not a fun time. It's not something that I enjoyed all the time, but after it was all over and now I look back, the discipline, the listening skills, the communication skills, all of that has taught me a lot in my life, even after I finished serving in 1991. So I think that one of the things that I really developed that is still near and dear to my heart is my training in drug and alcohol counseling and also in behavioral science. That was my MOS, military occupational specialty. Mm-hmm. And so, dealing with veterans now is such a blessing to be doing that work, to have the Green Alert bill passed. Mm-hmm. I know we're not talking about that today, but it's a bill that is especially designed for at-risk veterans who go missing And so just like a silver alert or amber alert, now we have a green alert for our veterans. So I really think that my military experience has catapulted me into the work I get to do today.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So when you got out of the military, what was next for you?
Oh gosh, a lot of a lot of trouble, a lot of disappointment. I was a single mother at that time. By the time I got out, I had 2 children. Um, for the first year, I looked for jobs that would support myself and my children. And I've shared this story because I have no shame about it whatsoever. When we got out of the military, what we were told back then, and I don't know how it is now, is that on your application, there's this space at the bottom that asks if you are a military veteran. And you check that, and folks are going to be just happy to hire you because they know what kind of person you are, the character you've built through your service. And that's totally not the truth. My experience in the military, working in psychology and mental health, did not translate into the civilian side. And I desperately tried to get work at the VA. But I say that because what happens is we have veterans like myself getting out of the Army and being lost. And for that first year, actually for years to come, we really, really struggled. And this is another thing that just lends into the work I do now. I found myself behind on rent and sued and evicted, and my children and I were living in the car and motels, terrible, awful motel in Speedway. But we got back up. We got back on our feet. And I made a prayer to God. I said, if you get us out of this, I'll serve you and serve my community for the rest of my life. And guess what? Here I am, and that's been the course of my life in one capacity or another. Mm-hmm. And that's why I try to tell people that you don't have to be ashamed of whatever's happened in the past. Mm-hmm. I know homeless because I was homeless, but that doesn't mean that I can own a home at some point. You know what I'm saying? It might take more time than others, but that's how I want to find the steps to get veterans to where they want to be, where they want to be. Then we don't want a whole lot. We want to have a comfortable life. We want to eat. We want to take care of our families. We want to have a roof over our heads, the same things as other people want. But I think that because of the choice we made to serve, that we ought to be especially deliberate about providing and helping vets.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That's really inspiring. How did you get out of those years of homelessness?
Finally, went to an apartment complex on the west side, and just told her the whole story. And she said, I'm going to take a chance on you. And she did that, and we never found ourselves in that position again. So I was super, super grateful. And what's so crazy is the same apartment complex that I was evicted from is now within my district.
Oh my gosh.
Look at that.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
And
it just gives me chills when I think about the course of life and how it takes you around and then sometimes back to where you began.
What would yourself now, like today, Renee, what would you tell yourself back then to give yourself some encouragement?
Well, back then I didn't know about loving myself, so I would have told my younger self, before you can do great things for others, you're going to have to figure out how to love yourself. You're going to have to figure out how to embrace even your faults and your flaws. And you're going to have to value you. Mm-hmm. And it took a long time before I got to that. Point.
How did you learn to love yourself?
Actually, that part is very recent. Mm-hmm. But I did learn to respect who I was in this world. And what I was first and foremost was a mother. And I was going to be that best mother I could possibly be. Now, after everything we've been through, I've raised 4 children, and each one of my children has a master's degree.
That's amazing.
You see, that's why I get so excited about being here and doing what I'm able to do, because this was never expected of me. But here we are.
Yeah.
Here we are.
That's amazing. Yeah. How long have you been in the political field?
My first, actually, back in 2008, when President Obama was running, me and my daughters, they were the 2 that were still back home. We got really, really interested in politics. We watched MSNBC from 8 to 11 every single night, you know, just because it was so exciting to have Barack Obama running and doing so well. And the night that he gave his speech in Chicago of acceptance, I looked at him and I said, I'm going to do that. Maybe not president, but I'm going to run and I'm going to serve and I'm going to make a difference. And it was only 3 months later that someone approached me and asked me to run for trustee. And I reluctantly said yes. I just figured, this is me, answering that call.
Right.
So, whoa. So anyway, I did. I ran a great campaign, learned a whole lot. Didn't win. We lost by 399 votes to the incumbent. But I told myself that I would never, ever do that again. The experience was cool, but I'm not ever going to put myself out there again to be rejected. Well, a few years later, my previous state rep took me out to dinner and asked, would I be interested in running? And I told her, no, I'm not running. I told you all I'm not doing this again. I sat on it for a few days, and then I came back and told her, let's try it. And I'm running now for my 3rd term.
Wow.
Yep.
That is awesome.
Yeah, this is term number 3. We still have a lot of work to do. So I have announced my candidacy. This May is the primary. I don't have an opponent, but we do have an opponent moving forward in November.
Okay. Well, best of luck to you on that.
Thank you.
Yeah. What are, looking back at your years as representative, what are maybe some initiatives, some achievements that your most proudest achievement?
The work that I did, was it my first year? I think the work I did the second year, the first year was kind of weird because it was the COVID year. We were not even in the State House. We were over in the government center. I don't even know if we saw as many bills that year as we normally would see. But I think that second year I started to work on a bill. I worked with some ladies who had been previously incarcerated over at the women's prison. And now most of them are out doing phenomenal work out here in the field and fighting for human rights for those that are incarcerated, especially women who are pregnant or have just had a baby. And so we really rallied the troops, and we got legislation passed that makes it unlawful for a woman to be handcuffed or restrained during childbirth. Until that law, it was lawful. Many did not do that, but it was still lawful. So I had gathered all of the ladies that I could think of. They testified. They did a wonderful job, and they really touched the hearts of everybody that was there, all the lawmakers. And then we had Dr. Fleming, who was an OBGYN down in Jeffersonville, carry that. So it was really cool to have, a physician on there and really pushing for some great things for women who are incarcerated, because 80% of women who go to prison are going to get out they're going to get out again.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to have to show them how to be humane. We're going to have to show them how to behave and how to make it
Mm-hmm.
after they get out. So that work is also important to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's amazing.
Mhm.
And, we've been able to partner with you this past year and, introducing HB 1087 to the session this year. So could you kind of just go through, like, I would love to hear your perspective, how you first were connected with us and heard about this issue of landlords, refusing veterans, with a voucher, and just kind of where it went from there.
Yeah. Well, I think what attracted me to the whole thing is the blatant discrimination.
Mm-hmm.
Emily Hildebrand and Bobby and I met at the State House back, I think, in the summertime. And that was the first time we had sat down face to face.
Mm-hmm.
And they presented the problem to me. I wasn't totally aware of this, that our service members could have vouchers and still be refused and not able to provide a roof over their head. So, of course, I was pretty appalled and asked them what it is that I can help with. Well, and I did move forward with carrying the bill 1087. I was sure that bill would come out of Veteran Affairs and Public Safety, which is the committee that I'm ranking minority member of. It did not. It went to financial institutions at the last minute.
Yeah.
It's super important. I was pleased this year at the number of bills that were heard that were veteran bills, because I felt like they kind of slacked off for a little bit, and we did a lot of public safety work, which is fantastic. We need that. But let's not forget that we're also, half of our committee is supposed to be there for veterans. Anyway, from that point on, we got to work on the language of the bill, which is very important because you've got to make sure the right words are there to clarify what you want to do,
Mm-hmm.
but also to touch the readers
Mm-hmm.
so that they want to do what you're asking them to do. And I always get a little, I don't know, I always get a little bit upset when people just kind of say no to vets. How can you? How dare you?
Mm-hmm.
How do you say no to me? I'm in the top 3% of the country
Mm-hmm.
that answered the call and said, yes, I'll go.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't go. You didn't go for whatever reason, and that's your right. But it just seems to me, and what I've learned, vets are so humble.
Mm-hmm.
We'll just take whatever's, given our way. And I'm getting tired of that. We're going to have to start yelling and screaming and standing on top of boxes in the State House and really yelling and demanding some rights. And 1087 just asked for veterans to have a voucher to have somewhere to live.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much what that was all about. And you told us no.
Yeah.
So it's my hope that we have plenty of time this year to really get. And the thing with, the thing with the committee that it went to last year, financial institutions, that particular chairman is running for Congress, so I don't know exactly who the chairman's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
So that might be a little sticky too, but we'll work through all of that. We'll work through that also.
What are next steps with this now not being passed, and then I guess just staying positive then for the next year? Because I think when I heard that it didn't pass, okay, well we can't get it, but we need to have an attitude of no,
you got to keep coming back.
Yeah.
The Green Alert bill that I'm on with Representative Gore, this is our 4th year.
Oh wow.
One thing about legislation, you got to be patient,
Mm-hmm.
and if you keep going and going and believing in it and bringing it back every year, and every year you get a little bit better about
Mm-hmm.
how to present what you want. You grow a little bit. You know the right people to get with. So it's a learning experience too, and it does take a tremendous amount of patience. And some people do get something in, and bam, it's goes through. It's voted on. It's signed by the governor, but this one was one that did not. So we'll be working on it throughout the year. We won't let it die. We won't be quiet about it. we'll make sure that by the time we go back into session next year, you all know what we've been working on and what we want for our vets.
How can our listeners support this issue?
Oh, okay. I'll tell you what is very powerful, and that's emails and letters to your state representative and your senators. And you can go to indygov.org, I think it is, and you can put your address in and you can find out who those people are if you don't know. But if you're really, not just this issue, but any issue you have, letters and emails and phone calls, if you do not hear back from your state rep or whatever representative you're calling, make sure you keep calling and you call and you call. You make them answer you and you make them notice you and you make them hear you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that's amazing. Yeah. Yeah. Is there anything else on this, topic of the voucher, the bill, just anything else that you think I didn't touch on that you'd like to share?
I just want to say that we really need the support of the public when it comes to veteran affairs and veteran issues. Even if you are not a veteran or not a family member of a veteran, we really need you to do those things like call in, write in, email in, and just let our legislators know that you think these issues are important and you'll support them when they support vets.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much. I loved hearing your story and just how passionate you are, not even just veterans, other people in need in our community. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, that wraps up this episode of Roger That. Thank you so much for listening. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to Roger That on wherever you get your podcasts. And be sure to follow us on social media at HVAF of Indiana. And for even more stories on HVAF and the veterans that we serve, check out our blog on our website at hvaf.org. Thank you, and until no hero is homeless, we'll see you next time on Roger That, a podcast presented by HVAF of Indiana.